Hello chess friends and welcome to Out of Chess channel and welcome back to the Computer Blitz Chess Championship in 2022. So this tournament is over and we know the winner, which is of course the Stockfish engine, but it's not the surprise that the Stockfish engine won the tournament, but the surprise was I think the result that we had in the finals, because Stockfish really brutalized the Dragon engine with a plus 100 result. So Stockfish in the end had 280 points. On the other hand, the Dragon engine had only 180 points. Really a wild performance by the fish. Again, congratulations to the developers of the beautiful Stockfish engine. It's proving itself more and more that it's simply the best engine in the world. So we're following now a brutal and sick attack here by Stockfish now from the super final against the King's Indian. And the cool part about this game is that the Stockfish engine destroyed the King's Indian in only 22 moves. Really a wild performance. I've never seen such a helpless position for black. Really great attacking flow by the fish again against the King's Indian. I myself like to play the King's Indian, but I should really reconsider it, because when I see what the Stockfish engine is doing against the King's Indian, I'm not sure about this opening anymore. So let's check out now this beautiful tactical game. Here d4 played by Stockfish. We have knight to f6 by Dragon. We have c4, g6, knight to c3. After bishop to g7, e4 and d6, we have now the standard King's Indian setup. And here Stockfish plays now a beautiful opening line against the King's Indian, which is now the so-called Makogonov variation. The Makogonov variation, I think, is one of the best ways to beat the King's Indian, and the idea is really clear. First of all, this move h3 is allowing you to play the move bishop to e3. Bishop to e3 is very important because from this square the bishop is controlling very important diagonals all over the board. And the cool part is that you can also proceed with bishop to e2 here, and you have also beautiful attack on both sides. The cool part about this move h3 is that you're not playing immediately knight to f3, because if you play knight to f3 and bishop to e2, the knight is standing a little bit in the way of the bishop. So with the delaying move of the knight, we have still opportunities to attack immediately with h4 h5, then afterwards here the position on the king side. So as I said, it's a delaying idea. We can also play some ideas of f4 going into 4-pawn attacks, because what you don't like actually every time in the King's Indian when you're playing it as black is the space advantage that white is in the beginning. So as I said, it's I think really one of the best ways if you want to beat the King's Indian. So as I said here, what black can do is simply then to launch a queenside attack, because many times if white proceeds here with g4, f4, knight to f3, bishop to e2, bishop to e3, white is going to also castle on the queenside. So that's why black has to be also prepared, has to know about white strategical ideas. So that's why many times black is preparing an early queenside attack, and that's why here we have the move c6 preparing b5. But b5 is not possible immediately. You have to prepare it also further with the move a6. So here bishop to e3. Now we have this move bishop to a6, and the problem about this move is that you cannot actually block this idea of a4 with the move a4, because if you play a4, then I think queenside castling is not possible anymore, because you have weakened simply too much your queenside. Then b5 could happen even with the sacrifice if you castle too early, for instance, on the queenside. Then with the attack on the a5, black could have also pleasant games. So that's why the Stockfish engine played here really, I think, a cool game. Is saying, okay, I will probably lose the battle on the b file. I'll lose probably here the battle on the queen side, but what can I do? I have already here a domination on the king side. What I could do is continue the pressure in the center of the board. Really beautiful move here by the fish. It's now the move f4, because Stockfish decides I'm going to still launch a flank attack, but I'm not going to castle on the queen side. I'm going to stay with the king in the center of the board. So that's why this f4 move makes sense, because Stockfish has now a pleasant game in the center and is breaking through now with the move e5. So here castling was played by the Dragon engine. We have now e5 immediately, knight to e8. What we can notice about this move knight to e8 is now the lack of connection between the rook and the queen. This is now very important to notice, because now there is a little bit of a tension on the d file. If something gets cleared, then of course the queen is a little bit endangered on d8. So here bishop to e2, normal progress. As we said, we want to play g4, h4, h5, similar stuff. We want to simply continue the pressure here on the king side. So b5, black has its fun of course on the queen side, but the cool part is that we have said white is not going to castle on the queen side. White is staying with the king in the center of the board, so that's why white is not going to castle into black's attack. And the only advantage that black has is actually on the queen side, but actually nothing is happening on the queen side. That's now the beauty of this Makogonov variation of white. So after move b5, Stockfish is saying, okay, you have your fun on the queen side, I have my fun on the king side. The problem again about this setup of black is that the knight is not anymore on f6. When the knight is on f6, then it's at least controlling the h5 square. It's also controlling the h7 square. It's a good defensive piece in front of black's king. So that's why this h4 move really makes sense. So we have now h5 here by the dragon engine. If you try here b4, it's not so good. You could maybe try this idea, but the only thing that you get actually is one tempo against the knight, and the knight still has a good square. The knight has a beautiful e4 square, so you didn't gain anything. You could maybe kick away the knight with the move d5, but then after c takes d5, maybe something like queen to d5 could happen. But this position is again not so good for black with the move bishop to f3. The bishop is of course indirectly attacking the queen. Knight to f6 is now huge threat with the check, and also here with the attack against the queen. And the problem I think is here the backward pawn on c5. Now the queen has to move somewhere. With queen to c2, rook to c1, we could play again against this backward pawn on c6. This is now huge positional weakness. Even if you improve this weakness with the move c takes d5, then with knight to g3, actually you're helping out here. White is getting more and more the pieces towards the king side. Now knight to f3 is happening, h4, h6, h6, g6. Again, you see all of the minor pieces are simply on the king side, and white will have fun for sure. So as I said, it's not really a pleasant position here for black. With the move h4, at least what you have to do is block out now the position with the move h5. So here Stockfish continues the pressure, g4 immediately. The idea is clear. H takes g takes h5 is now a huge possibility. If that happens after g takes h5, then the g file could get open and the king is really naked. So we have now c5. This is now liberating move for black. At least black is trying to get the bishop on b7, here attacking the rook on h1. But the problem is, as we said in the beginning, the lack of connection between the rook and the queen. Now Stockfish simply takes, d takes c5 is not possible. The queen is hanging, so that's why first bishop to b7, and now bishop to f3. Stockfish is saying, okay, we can trade off here the pieces if you want, but now with queen to f3, first of all you lose a tempo, and the problem is now if you play something like knight to d7, we'll simply proceed. H takes g takes h5, g takes h5, queen to h5, and black is losing the game tactically. So after move bishop to f3, we have knight to c6. So at least the dragon engine is trying to develop more pieces, is trying to somehow to defend this position, but Stockfish simply proceeds with c takes d6. We have now h takes g4, and now we have d takes e7. The problem about this position is that bishop to g4 would be a huge mistake because of this tactic. Knight to e5, as we said, is simply taking a rook. You could maybe play here f takes e5, but now simply bishop to h1, and I think black can maybe defend its position, although probably still with h5 white could have a comfortable game. But here you don't want to risk anything here in the continuation of the game. After move h takes g4, here Stockfish simply takes d takes e7. The problem about this line is that queen to d1 is not so good here for black. Rook takes d1. Now you have to make a reaction. Even if you take out here the bishop, then your rook is hanging on f8, and even if you try here of course to take out with the knight, then of course we use here this moment and we can take out the bishop on b7. So taking out on d1 is also not a good continuation here for for black. So that's why you have to take queen to e7. We have now knight to d5. You see Stockfish is staying here with the bishop hanging. Really beautiful attack by the fish. We have queen to d8 and now bishop to b6, continuing simple the pressure, simple threats here by the Stockfish, and now the queen is on b8. And the queen is now really on a weird square. The queen is simply too passive. You would love, I think, here from black's perspective to trade off somehow the queens. If the queens would be off the board, then black could maybe defend its position, but not in this position. Now the queen is too far away from the action, the bishop is too far away, the knight is maybe good here, but the problem is that the knight on e8 is also a little bit misplaced. So the only good defensive piece that you have here is the bishop on g7, and that's simply not so much. Of course, Stockfish is already there. Stockfish makes simply progress now with the move h5, and the problem is now that you cannot take, actually g takes f3 is not possible. This wasn't played in the game because of this line. If you take out the bishop, then the knight comes very active into the game from this square. The knight can come on a g5, can also be very useful. And even if you maybe try to get your queen somehow back into the game, it's again not possible. Here h takes g6 is going to happen now. Here f takes g6, but now comes really a wild move. Here we have c takes b5, and after a takes b5, queen to b3, and there is not a good way to protect everything. You see the bishop is controlling the square a5. You cannot create any threats against the queen, and now the discovered attack is really wild. Knight to f6 is serious threat, so you could maybe bring the queen here to e6, but now with knight to g5, the queen is helpless. It's simply game over. You have to move the queen, and now the discovered attack is going to happen, the double check, and it will be a checkmate. So here knight to f6, if we move the queen, let's see, knight to f6, here really beautiful stunner. So as I said, you are simply vulnerable to so many attacking possibilities. The light squares are a problem, the dark squares are a problem, the h-file attack is a problem, the lack of activity is a problem. So after move h5, here the dragging engine tried to move g5, at least trying to keep the position somehow locked here on the king side, but Stockfish simply proceeds with bishop to g4. We have g takes f4, and now h6, simply kicking away the bishop, and now we have bishop to e5. And this is now a beautiful decoy of the bishop, because the bishop, okay, is in the center of the board, but the problem is now that it can be attacked. So that's why the move knight to f3. Let's see now possible continuation. Here the drag engine played knight to f6, is leaving the bishop hanging, but even if you try bishop to b2, you don't gain anything. The bishop gets more and more an object of the attack. Rook to b1, and even if it tries maybe to play bishop to f6, then we can simply take it out, and you have, I think, here positional problems. h7 is always a threat, so this is now the move that bothers, I think, here black in the continuation. Even if you try bishop to h8 to hide, then again with the h7, here you have to place your king, and now with bishop to d4, knight to d4, queen to d4, the queen is coming into the game. So again, really not so good opportunity. So even if you try here maybe to escape on e5, then we can play bishop to c5. It's also a threat against the rook. You can maybe try knight to f6, but now with rook to g1, you see a g-file attack is also possible. So as I said, you can maybe hide with your king to h7, but now with queen to c2, again you're vulnerable also to some attacks. You could also try to place your king on h8, but again here bishop to f5, I think again that white has a comfortable game. Rook to g7, rook to h7 is now also a serious threat. So you can be the judge of this position, but as I said, this is simply too much to handle, I think, here for black. So too many attacking opportunities. I really didn't want to show you now what happens if that happens. There are simply too many now tactical lines, but we can agree, I think, that black king is simply naked. So that's why after move knight to f3, here the dragging engine tried knight to f6, and now comes a beautiful stunner here by the Stockfish engine. Maybe you can pause the video and try to see now the best continuation here for white. It's really a beautiful move. So as I said, take your time, try to see now the best continuation. It's not maybe so easy to see, but it's really one of the most beautiful moves that I've seen in my life. So okay, now we have a beautiful deflection motif. It's now the move bishop to c7. is deflecting the bishop from the attack. Here, if you tried bishop to c7, that wasn't played in the game, but now you get knight to f6, and the cool part is that this move comes with a check. You have to move your king to h8, and now with queen to c2, there's not a good way anymore to protect everything. You can just bring some pieces in between, but as I said, the checkmate is going to happen for sure. So that's why after move bishop to c7, you have to take out with the queen. That's now huge problem. And now after move knight to c7, we're now in the move 23, and this game is basically over. Black has lost the queen. Okay, the game was prolonged, but we can agree, I think, in this top engine level, this is simply not good anymore for black. Here bishop to c7, and now rook to g1. Stockfish continues the pressure, has now the queen for 2 minor pieces, which is, I think, in this position simply winning, because we have also another element. The king is simply too endangered here. So after move rook to g1, we have king to h8, we have king to f1, hiding the king on a more secure place. We have b takes c4, and now queen to d2. We're trying now maybe queen to c3, also getting use of this diagonal. So knight to e7, we have a rook to e1, attacking the knight, knight to d5, and now knight to e5, rook to d8, queen to c2. We're trying now, of course, to get the queen again on more active squares. Bishop to e5, rook to e5, rook to e8, and now queen to f5 is getting now use of this very important square. Bishop to c8, and now it's a beautiful tactical line here. Stockfish is trying to simplify the game. Rook to e8, rook takes e8, bishop to c8, and now we have reached this position in which Stockfish is up the exchange, has now a beautiful position. So the knight to b4, we have a rook to g7, knight to g8, and now bishop to f5. Very important move, is threatening, of course, the checkmate. We have now knight to h6, and now, of course, rook to h7, king to g8, and now here rook takes h6 is winning this game for sure. So I want to stop here. The game was prolonged because the rules of the computer chess championships are saying you have to play till checkmate. So but in this position, it's obvious that white is winning the game. White is here an extra rook. So really stunning attack again by the fish. I'm not sure what to say. This, you see, the drag engine is really a top engine, and Stockfish destroyed it in only 23 moves. Now we're in move 38, but we can agree, I think, that in the move 23 it was already game over when the drag engine lost its queen. So really beautiful attack. I hope that you enjoyed the game like I did. Really, I will try now this Makogonov variation more and more against the King's Indian. In my opinion, my honest opinion, if you want to find something against the King's Indian, please try it out. I think you'll have beautiful success, because it's one of the best ways simply to beat the King's Indian. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. If you want to see more brutal attack games like this, check out my commented chess games played by computer series with some more games played by Stockfish, Alpha Zero, Lila Zero, Drag Engine, and many more. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.